Hello, everyone. I think we're live and we're rolling with Miss Lynley Voges. Oh, you just told me.
Voges. It's okay.
Voges. There we go. Lynley Voges, our great child life specialist with Bonheur. We're so pleased to have you on, Lynley.
Thanks. I'm excited.
We are too. So I'm going to pull up your presentation and we can get started. I did want to add that if anyone has anything that they want to throw, any questions for Lynley, go ahead and throw them in the chat and she will answer them here towards the middle to end. But she's got a little presentation and then some activities for us and we will get rolling. So let me do that. Okay, Lynley, I think you're set.
All right, you guys, for those of you that I don't know, my name is Lynley Voges. I am a child life specialist here at Bonheur Children's Hospital, and I work on our inpatient floor for our respiratory patients. And then I also am the child life specialist for our CF center. So I go over to our outpatient clinic. So I've probably seen some of you guys in clinic before too. I have been here now for 2.5 years as an employee, but I did my internship here. So technically, I've been on the 11th floor and working with our CF population now for about 3 years, and I am loving it. I was just telling Megan, I wish I want to be here forever. So, if you'll go to the next slide for me, Megan, we'll kind of get started. If you've met me, you know that I always say this, but you guys know your children best. So I am not a parent, and the things that I have for us in our presentation, these are just ideas that honestly I've gotten from a lot of our families here at the hospital. And these are just some fun things that you guys can do as a family during this kind of these weird times, but also even in normal life too. So I am not a professional parent. So if you guys have any ideas or questions or even things that y'all have done at home, if you want to put those in the chat box, and I think Maddie will send those over to me and we can all just kind of bounce ideas back and forth from each other. That would be great. My hope is that this will be pretty interactive. So if you'll take me to the next slide. I put this quote up here. One of our patients was admitted about a month ago, and she said this to me. She said, "I'm not the only one with a mask on anymore. People don't stare at me, and other people have to stay home to stay safe too." And I love that she said this because it was a great reminder for me that while the rest of the world is going into this quarantine, our kids with CF and their families, this is sort of how their life always is, being very cautious, making sure that they aren't putting themselves in situations where their child could get sick. So I included that just because when she said that, I was like, oh man, I need to remember this. So different stressors during quarantine and the corona outbreak could just be simply having to be stuck at home. That in and of itself is a huge stressor. If you have preteen, teen kids, social media can be a place that really drives fear. I know even, and I do this too sometimes, just taking what we learn from social media as truth when it isn't and letting our anxiety kind of rise from there. I know that's been a big thing that our teens have said, just having to get off of social media to really benefit their mental health. Another fear is just testing positive, having the coronavirus, and what does that look like when you already have a chronic condition. I think one of the big things that we talk about in our center is just the disruption of normal life. When you have a chronic condition, your days are pretty routine, medicines, treatments, the people that are around you, and then something like corona happens and your whole daily life is thrown off. Your routine is thrown off. It's hard to have a set schedule when you're at home every single day. And so I know that that can be a pretty big added stressor as well. And then just family dynamics too. Are there more people in your home? Are you working away from home more? Are you working less? Are your kids that don't typically spend a lot of time together, are they now in the home? Is it hard to have everyone at home? I know that is another big thing too. And if there are any other stressors that you guys have been able to identify, if you want to put those in the chat, that would be awesome too, because I know there are just so many different things that are going on in the world right now, and how those play into the anxiety and dynamic of a family. Sometimes just stating what those are, that is really important. So if you'll go to the next slide, and then I can come back if there are any other things. I was talking to Miss Terry. I don't know if you know our CF educator, but Miss Terry is amazing. And when I showed her this slide, she said, make sure our families are incorporating humor into their daily lives during quarantine, because humor is so important. So I told her I would make sure I said that. But I love this quote. I'm not going to read it to you. It's an excerpt from a Child Life book, and it just really stresses the importance of play in a child's life, how important play is for their development, for their social skills, for their understanding of life, and especially in a stressful situation. That's my whole job, right? Is helping kids play, being able to play out different situations. So it doesn't matter what you guys are doing at home. You may have already done all these things that I'm about to show you. Just as long as your kids are getting to play, that is the most important thing. So we'll go to the next slide. And then I'm definitely not going to read you guys all of this, but I actually have these different age groups right by my desk, kind of as a cheat sheet. And I wanted to include these just for families at home that have more than one child and in different age groups. This can be such a quick reference. If you want to just do one activity, this kind of helps with how you can modify those different activities, or that one activity, to your children's different needs. So I've broken them up just in different age groups, but I'm not going to read these to you, but these are some good things to keep on hand. And then the next slide is just the last age group that I've talked about. So, are there any questions so far, Megan? Or are we good? And I can start showing some activities.
We've got a couple folks watching Lindley, so if you want to start the activities, we can keep kind of calling in some questions. You can just post them right there in the chat, but we also have a handful that were turned in earlier that we can ask as we go forward. So.
Yeah. So we'll start with some of the activities that I've heard from our families here that have been helpful during quarantine. But one of the first activities, and I thought this was funny, just different scavenger hunts, inside and outside. They can be themed. You can dress up with your kids. Anything that you want to do to really just kind of play into their imagination. I had a friend tell me that she gave her kids a scavenger hunt in the laundry room, and all of her kids ended up cleaning the whole laundry room through that scavenger hunt. So I thought that was really funny. Megan, if you could pull up that slide that has the activities, that would be awesome. Perfect. Okay. So I wanted you guys to be able to see this homemade window painting. If you've ever been admitted, you know that for a while we just didn't have window paint, but now I figured out a way to make your own window paint. So I brought the materials that we need, but if you are at home and you have washable paint and hand soap, you can make window paint. And I will be disclaimer, I've tried this on the hospital windows, and our cleaning staff, they have approved it. They said that you can definitely use this on your windows because it will come off. But if you mix about 3 tablespoons of hand soap and then add some drops of washable paint, the hand soap is what will make that paint come right off the window. And then if the paint is too translucent and it's too light, you can keep adding drops of paint to darken the color, but it's always better to start with a lighter paint than straight on the window. So if you, can they see me, Megan? Is my face on there? Because I brought some of my things, so I'll show you guys how it works. And we're going to pretend like this is a window. This is just a storage top. But this is also, if you don't feel comfortable putting paint on your window, any type of Tupperware, you can paint on this, and then the kids can just wipe right off. So I'll show you. I'll draw you guys a quick heart. Paint, hand soap, mixing cup. And since I'm here, I'm just going to eyeball it. And then we're going to add our soap. And then if you'll just mix it up. And I've found sometimes when our kids are in the hospital, I have to remind them that this is not wall paint, this is window paint. So I'm typically there when we decide to do window paint. Even though it comes off the windows, sometimes our patients can get curious and paint on the walls. So once you've mixed it up, you can, and then it's just like normal paint. And if you guys can remind me, I will wash it off at the end of this after it dries so that you can see that it actually does come off. The next activity that is super easy to do from home is homemade I Spy jars. So this is actually a specimen cup, but if you can see there, I used rice, and then there are some seashells in here, some little miniature erasers. And these are fun things to do just if you have extra things lying around the house. You could use a mason jar, a clear water bottle, anything that the kids can see through. And then if you don't have rice at home, even going outside, and you could use dirt, rocks, you could use flour, you really could use anything, but these are just fun little miniature things to do. I had a parent tell me that they have been making these for their kids in the car ride, and you can write down what all is in there and then hand them these and say, okay, by the time we get so and to wherever, you have to have found everything. So that is a really fun idea. The next thing we are going to do is, well, the next thing that I have, sorry, I'm trying to make sure my computer, there we go. Active Uno. I do this in the hospital with our kids because, as y'all know, they can't leave their room, and it just feels like the room gets smaller and smaller the longer they're here. But if you know me, you know Uno is my game. We've probably had an Uno tournament with your nurses, but a fun twist to Uno is, let's say for an example, it's raining at home, you can't go outside, or there are tons of kids running around your house, or you just need something new to do. And we know that physical activity is super important for our patients with cystic fibrosis, and sometimes that can be really hard to get a child who doesn't feel good to engage in, activities that may make them cough or really wear them out. So Active Uno is when you designate a workout activity for each color. So you could say blue is jumping jacks, red is push-ups, green is squats. And then when you're playing, whatever number of the red card or whatever number is on the green card, that's how many of that exercise that they have to do. And it's fun to do with the whole family. You could do silly activities, but then that way it doesn't feel like the child with cystic fibrosis is being singled out to go do A, B, C, or D. It can be really inclusive to the whole family. So the next activity, make your own mask. And you guys, Dr. Shoemaker actually gave me this recipe. And he said that the best homemade mask that you can make is with a bandana or a t-shirt and a vacuum filter. Because I said, I thought a coffee filter would work. And he said, no way, a vacuum filter. And that is going to be your best bet. So I was going to make one here, and then I tried to, and it just didn't go great. But you guys are probably way more creative than me. So you can just get any bandana, any t-shirt, and cut the vacuum filter to the appropriate size, and then fold, hot dog style, fold the material around it, and then you could tie the bandana around. If you cut 2 ties out of that t-shirt piece, you could tie that around as well. And that is our Dr. Shoemaker approved homemade mask. Can you pull up the slide, Megan, of the Corona time capsule? I think it's maybe slide. Yeah, perfect. Megan is gonna send out this attachment, but this is a really cool resource that I have used here at the hospital. So it's a 2020 COVID-19 time capsule, and I've posted on here just a few screenshots of what the actual packet looks like. But what's cool about this and what I found here at the hospital is that it's a really neat way to kind of document the patient or the child's feelings about what's going on without having to sit down and make that conversation feel forced or feel, unnatural. So this has all sorts of prompts on here of what are you thankful for? What are 3 things that you're excited about when this is over? What does your life look like right now? What are some special dates that you have had to celebrate in quarantine? Megan, will you go to that next slide for me? And then I loved this part. There's a part where the kids can interview the parents. And this is a cool way to talk to your kids about the coronavirus? What does it look like when we, start to transition back out into the world, and how are parents feeling about it? And it's a really fun and interactive way for the whole family to document how they're feeling, talk about it together, and then I guess with a time capsule, right? You bury it, or you put it somewhere and then look at it a few years later, which could also be something really sweet for the family as well. I was gonna say, if any of you guys are looking for more resources on how to talk to your children about corona, or how to kind of battle that fear, if there is fear or anxiety with coming out of quarantine, I put my contact information at the end of this, and you guys are more than welcome to reach out to me, and I could get you guys some resources on what those conversations can look like, or just what our kids are thinking but may not necessarily be expressing. So you guys can keep that in mind too. The next slide. Okay, this is my favorite. And I'm not sure who's watching, but if you have been admitted or met me in clinic, I've probably done 1 out of 3 of these with you, if not 2 or all of them. But these are cool activities that I do often with our kids and siblings that are affected by cystic fibrosis, just to help our kids understand what cystic fibrosis actually is. And so the first thing we talk about is hand washing, and just how important that is, and how funny it is that now it's like the whole world is obsessed with hand washing, when that I know that's been something that you guys have instilled in your kids since they were born. But with the hand washing, I don't think you're not going to be able to see because the way the screen is, but this is called Glow Germ. I got it for maybe $4 off of Amazon, and it comes with this little black light. Ask me about it next time you see me in person and we'll do it. But this is a really, really good, tangible example of how dirty our hands can get. So you put this on your hands, and it shows you all the germs, and then you would shine the black light on their hands, and it's crazy. And then they go wash their hands, and then they come back, and when you shine the light on their hands, they should be totally clean again. So that's just a fun little hand washing, I guess, experiment, if you will. This book, this is called the Super Silly Wash Your Hands Dance, and this was actually written by a child life specialist and illustrated by one of our artists here at Bonheur. It's just a really sweet book about washing your hands. There's a little jingle that goes along with it. If you guys are interested in getting one of these, you can contact me as well, and I'm happy to mail you one, because it's a really fun, easy, simple resource. The next activity is our sprinkles and syrup activity. I wish I could see who all's on here, because I would get one of you guys to narrate it for me, because I know that they've seen this before. But this sprinkles and syrup activity is something that we do with our kids that come to clinic, and it's such a good way to reflect the difference between my mucus and then a child with cystic fibrosis, what their mucus looks like. So I'm going to show you guys, and then we have sent this activity home with kids so that they can show maybe their classmates this, and it's just really fun and super easy. So you'll need sprinkles, syrup, and water, and a tissue. So I'll start and I'll say that the mucus in my lungs is different from the mucus in their lungs. And my mucus is like water. And it's not very sticky. It's pretty thin. And that I don't really have trouble coughing it up. And then I'll tell the patient that their mucus is really special and it is super sticky. Or I'll ask them, what does it feel like? And it's syrup. And so it's a little bit thicker, it's a little bit stickier. And usually I get like they're licking their fingers, so I always have to ask if they're having any tests that they need to be NPO for before I do this, because it never fails. Hands always in mouth. So then I'll say that these sprinkles, I don't know, they're Christmas sprinkles, that these represent bacteria and germs. And so when I breathe in with my mucus and the bacteria gets stuck in my lungs, and I'm not going to do this part here because it'll go everywhere, but I will cough and I'll shake my finger and these sprinkles fly everywhere. They easily come off. And that's because my mucus is, again, really thin. And then I have them stick their finger in the syrup and then in the sprinkles. And then we shake our finger and none of the sprinkles come off, right? And so then that leads into a conversation of, well, what helps you cough? What helps you get your mucus and your bacteria out? And they will say their vest or their Arabica. And everyone says that differently, so if I'm saying it's super wrong, let me know, help me out. But then that leads into a really good conversation of just why the vest is so important, because you don't want the sprinkles, bacteria, staying in that thick mucus that's a little bit harder to get out. And that this can be a really sweet experiment for siblings. If one sibling has CF and one doesn't, here there are two different types of mucus represented, same bacteria, just different outcome. And so that's a really fun activity. And again, like I said, it's really good for if you decide to take your child to school and they want to tell their friends about it. This is a really great visual for them. And then, I got paint everywhere. And then the last thing that I wanted to show you guys, and again, this is something that Megan can send out as well. So this, and Megan, could you actually show the slide of the diagram for me real quick? Perfect. So this diagram, we use this. I know you guys heard from our dietitian a month ago. Ashley and I use this diagram to really help our kids with CF understand where their enzymes are going, what part inside of their body are affected by the different medicines they take, and where are their lungs more affected? Is their GI tract more affected? And this picture can be really cool to fill out on your own, to put by your child's medicine. Really, this works for anything. I filled this out before just as an educational piece for one of our patients, and in those blank boxes, we wrote out every single one of her medications and what they were important for and what they were affecting. And then this is also a fun way just to kind of gauge how much our patients here really understand about cystic fibrosis and where are those parts that we can kind of walk alongside of and really help them understand and take ownership over their treatments or their medication, because we know that as they get older, that's something that's super important for them too. But this is, I mean, you could even use it as a coloring sheet, a placemat, whatever y'all decide to use it for. Let me know so that I can get more use out of it as well. And then on the last slide, I think it's the one right after this, I put my contact information. That's my email, and then my work cell phone. So if you guys ever have any questions about anything that I showed here, if there's anything that you guys are like, hey, that probably actually wouldn't work, please let me know. Like I said, most of what I have talked about on here, I get my ideas from families that come here and tell me things that work for their kids and what doesn't work. So please reach out to me for anything that you guys need during this time. I know we aren't all face to face, so that can just be really different. So I'm happy to make a phone call, email you resources. But are there any questions that you guys have for me, or any new ideas?
Hey, Lindley, that was great. We actually had a lot of great response. I think you can see your friend Crystal and Isaiah. Isaiah said, that's my friend, and he wants you to bring a fossil next time
Oh
he comes
gosh.
by. So that's great. No, we're so pleased to see so many people interact and kind of be there with us. We did have a few, so I don't know if you want to take a few more minutes and talk a little bit about, kind of how you got to your position. Like, how did you become a child life specialist? What was that path for you?
Um, so my undergrad, I actually got my degree in communications, and then I was living in Nashville at the time. So I started working for a smaller holistic clinic in Nashville, but we worked with children who have autism and their families. And it was there, it was a super small clinic. So there were only three of us, and it was there that I really realized that I love working with kids and parents and bringing that together and working with the family as a whole. And so I started researching just jobs or what that would look like. I had a couple of friends who in college who had siblings who spent a lot of time in the hospital, and they would always say, "Oh, Lindley, you should be a child life specialist." And I'm like, "Don't what? Never heard of it." And kind of just, I was just trying to graduate college, and so I started looking into it again, and I went back to school just to take the classes that were needed for the certification. And then I did my practicum work at Erlanger in Chattanooga, which is actually where I met my first patient with cystic fibrosis, and that's where I really learned about it. I really had only heard about it, and I would be lying if I said I knew that it was a serious chronic condition. I had no idea. And then I got my internship at Bonheur, and I actually got my internship on the 11th floor and spent time going over to clinic. And at the end of my internship, the child life specialist that was here before me said she was going back to nursing school and that she was going to advocate for me to be the child life specialist on this floor. So I've been here ever since.
That's great. You seem like you really love it. So we'll do one last question, and then we've got a few things to wrap up. But what do you think? What's your favorite activity to do with the kids? Like, what's your favorite one? If you can only pick one.
Only one. Oh man. full
So many
court
choices.
basketball games in the room.
Really?
Yeah, I only have one of my goals in here, but so fun. We rearranged the room. We'll put tape down to represent, 3-pointer, free throw, and it's super fun.
So cool, so cool. So I did want to give a special thanks, Lindley. You did a great job. We had so many people that loved your ideas. I think if anybody makes anything, like if they make the I Spy job, or if you want to show how the paint washes off real quick, but
Yes.
if anybody does that, post a picture for us so we can make sure Lindley sees her great ideas. So it just washes right off. That's what you're claiming here.
Yes, let me get one of my wipes. That's what I'm claiming, but if it doesn't work, those of you watching that know me, you're probably like, figures. Figures she would paint on the window and it doesn't come off. Because if that's gonna happen, it's gonna happen to me and it's gonna happen here. So it's still a little bit wet, but yeah, it just comes right off.
Brilliant. I kind of love it. I think that's a fun activity.
Yep.
So thank you again, Lindley. We have one last thing. I really hope everybody kind of shares their fun stuff. And then I did want to do a quick plug for something we have coming up here. June 18th and 20th is our CF Family Con. That's a virtual event. You do have to register, but it's free and it's virtual. And it's just a great opportunity for families to come together. And that's next week. So I think it's Wednesday and Friday next week. So I hope everybody can join us. Maddie, anything else? She's on mute, but we're loving it. Lindley, thank you so much. This was great fun. Did you have a good time?
Yes. That was fun. And I'll send you the documents, and then I don't know where you'll put them, but you can send them out.
We'll take care of that. Maddie's got it listed in the chat. So you have a lot of thank yous and a lot of excitement, and people really did just love it. So thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.